I decided to come to the Temple of Nature to film the next Shakti Temple talk. So here I am. I've been craving a lot of silence, a lot of space, a lot of stillness lately, to the point that when there's not that in my field, it feels very grating to my system, very irritating. So I'm heeding the call of nature today and came and hiked out here in the Occidental area. And it's super beautiful. You can't see it, but I'm in a creek bed that usually has a lot of water in it, but it hasn't rained yet this year. And there's like a pool of water over here. I might show you at the end, with a beaver dam and a log with a bunch of mushrooms growing on it, and there are ferns around and golden sun shining through the treetops, and it's so beautiful. Such good medicine. So let's just take a moment to listen to that silence. And take in the space. We find it in nature, but we can also find it inside of ourselves at any time that we need to go in and receive that clarity, that clearness of being. And we just need to slow down, because everything moves really fast these days. So this is all very fitting and in alignment with what I felt inspired to speak on today. And so today's Shakti Temple talk is about exquisite self-care. And I want to lens this through the idea of Shakti worship and kind of through the tantric system in a way. And so exquisite self-care, I think we're living in a time where more and more of us are interested in self-care and looking for ways that we can tend to the self on deeper and deeper levels. We realize how important that is. And in our really fast-paced society that's very much production-based, it can be really difficult to, put food on the table and simultaneously find the time to really deeply tend to ourselves. We're all high maintenance beings. If we are in this realm, we are high maintenance. So, and we see the effects of when we aren't maintaining the self, and then we also see the effects of when we are or when others are. There's a marked difference in the quality of the being when we are tending the self. So where I want to lens this is this rule of 5. So in the tantric system, in many systems really, we start to see these number patterns that show up over and over again, and we see a lot of 3s showing up in the tantric system, but then there's also this 5 that shows up. And how this ties in is that creation is based off of the building blocks of the 5 elements, right? Earth, water, fire, air, ether. And these are all aspects of Shakti, right? So the 5 elements make up her creation. And then the 5 elements are associated with the 5 senses, which is how we experience life. So the 5 elements are the building blocks, and then there's how we experience those building blocks. And so in this system, how they correspond is that the earth element is associated with our sense of smell. So when we come into the forest, it's one of the first things that we kind of take in is that smell of the earth, of the humus of the soil, of the trees, of the decaying matter. And it's very grounding, it's very clarifying. So earth is the sense of smell. From there we have water, the element of water, which is our sense of taste. We have that saliva in our mouth, and water is that ability to sense through taste. And then we move into fire, which is our sense of sight. right? That's light, it takes in light. So fire is a sense of sight. From fire we move into air. Air is our sense of touch. So if we feel the air on our skin. And then ether is sound. So if we close the eyes, we hear the chirp of the birds, the rustling of the leaves in the wind. That's the ether element. And I think it's so important. The reason I'm lensing this with exquisite self-care is, first of all, okay, so we have the 5 elements, these are the building blocks, and then we have the 5 senses, which is how we experience this. And for me today, it's like, you know, when we get so chaotic in the mind or frenetic or even lazy in the body, one of the best medicines we can do is just come into nature. What's so powerful about nature is that it nourishes all of the senses. It's like they all get to exist in their purity. They're not bombarded by too much, and they can really take things in. And we can follow any of our senses super deeply into these elementals and into this state of beauty, essentially a very Venusian quality, which Shakti is the senses. This is how she experiences herself, and men and women alike, if we're in manifest form, this is the expression of Shakti moving through us. And so we can start to follow these different senses and let them find the end of their fulfillment inside of us. And, you know, just by listening to the birds and really taking it in, by feeling the breeze on our skin and really taking it into the core of our being, by looking and seeing the beauty abounding. So beauty is one of the most nourishing things for our being and all levels of being, which now brings us to the next sacred 5, which are the 5 bodies. So in this system, Shakti also gives us 5 different bodies. We start with the physical body, right? Most obvious. And this is what we tend to be most connected to when we think of self-care, is like, how do I take care of my physical body? Because it's the most gross, it's the most material, densest part, and it really lets us know when things aren't going well. The physical body is an amazing tool, vessel, really, that we get to exist within, and so it's very important. Oh my God, there's the cutest little bird taking a little drink over here. Oh my God, so cute. Hi. I was gonna think of showing you, but anyway, he's gone. Where was I going? So the physical body. So the physical body, it's very important that we do start here, because without a clear and tended physical body, we can't even really move into tending to the other bodies. And so the idea of self-care is that we keep our vessel fine-tuned so that we can experience the divine through it. So we can experience the purity of the senses through the body, and also so that we can tend to the more subtle body. So as we move from the physical body, we have the energetic body, right? And so we're aware of this energy field around us. We have the mental and the emotional body, right? And I think we're learning more and more how important it is that we keep the mental and emotional body also purified and tended. And then from there, we have the wisdom body, which is kind of this higher level of intellect, you know, this space of observation. So there's like the mental body, which is like the screen upon which everything's playing, and then there's this deeper place of consciousness within our being that we can rest into. And from there, there's the bliss body, or the spiritual body, right? This is where we get to actually fully experience the divine. And they're all connected all the time, but we tend to get lost most of the time in either the mental body, the emotional body, or the physical body. And I'm connecting the emotional and the mental bodies here. So exquisite self-care looks like not just tending the physical body. It looks like tending all 5 of these bodies. And I think this, for me, is what's so powerful about getting out into nature, is that through that rule of 5, through the 5 elements in their purity, through the 5 senses be in their purity and in their clear expression, the five bodies also get harmonized. And what tends to happen is they just get out of whack from each other, and we want to line them back up. And so we're connected from the whole system, from the gross to the subtle. And so exquisite self-care means that we are tending to the physical body. We're honoring its needs for rest, something that's challenging sometimes in this day and age. So we're honoring its need for rest. We're honoring its need for pure food. We're honoring its need for affection and physical touch and intimacy. We're honoring its need for exercise, for tending, for toning, So the body has all these needs for hygiene. And so this is where we start, is with the physical body. So we start to tend this, and we get enough sleep, and we eat good food, and we get exercise every day, and we make sure that our intimacy needs are met. So this is how we tend to the physical. The energetic body, when we develop a daily practice, and this is where I really want to go with all this, is that it's really important that we have a daily practice of some sort. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be yoga, it could be Tai Chi or Qigong, it could be even just hiking in nature, it could be self-contemplation or meditation, it could be any number of things, but ideally it's something that activates all the bodies. And this is something that's been lost in yoga in the West, is that it's become very focused on the physical, and it's forgotten to tend to those other bodies and levels. And so when we really develop a practice that's going to nourish on all of those levels of being, we want to find something that will cover all of those aspects. So the deeper layers of yoga will also work on the energetic body. Breath work, this kind of thing, works with the energetic body. Obviously for the mental body, and also for the energy, that's also connected to rest, but starting to actually listen to our energy levels, like not overdoing caffeine or substances or stuff like this, and really honoring our energy and trying to keep it contained, for lack of better words, so we're not leaking our life force energy, but that we're tending and cultivating it and using it wisely, because this is our life force energy. And so how do we tend to our energy? And the breath is a really amazing way that we can do that. And then all the things that nourish the physical body will also connect indirectly to the energetic body. And then we move into like the mental emotional realm, and this is where we can go into states of meditation that are extremely helpful to calm the mental body, or just coming into nature where all of a sudden you can hear your thoughts more clearly, and eventually they start to unravel just as you spend time in nature. And so how can we tend to the mental body? How can we do practices that help us clarify our thoughts, discern truth more clearly, just have more ease? Because the mental body especially is one of the bigger problems that we have in this day and age, and it trickles down into the physical. We might start having these negative loops of thought, like let's say fear. Let's say our mind goes into these loops of fear and anxiety. Well, how does that affect our energetic body? How does that affect our physical body? And we start to manifest disease in all these levels. So I actually think in this day and age, the most important of the five bodies to tend for exquisite self-care is actually the mental body, really making sure we keep it, as purified as possible. We become more aware of our thoughts instead of just like going around in circles with them. We start to watch our thought process and watch our emotional process, and how a thought will spark an emotion, will spark a reaction in the energetic body and the physical body. And some thoughts will make everything feel very exciting, and others more dense and contracted. And so we start to observe that. And then with the emotions, starting to practice emotional alchemy and healthy release and integration of emotions, and kind of learning how to parent ourselves in a way so that we're not throwing tantrums, but we're also not suppressing our emotions, and we're learning how to hold ourselves in our feelings and let them be teachers for us, not letting them run the show in reaction, but response, and to learn how to have like healthy relationship with the emotions. And as we move up, then we get to start to create more of a relationship with the wisdom body. And this is where we start to really discern truth from fiction, where we get out of our own way and we can hear the needs of the body more clearly and just easily honor them. Because something that happens, and this is true for me, I've observed this in myself, and I think this is just a very human phenomenon, is we'll know what we need to do for self-care, but then we get tangled in these loops or patterns or distractions or whatever it is for us, addictions, and we don't do the thing we need to do. But as we start to develop that muscle of discipline to really make it a priority for exquisite self-care, starting with the physical, starting with some kind of daily practice, we can start to lean in more to that wisdom body. As we start to purify, it gets easier and easier for us to show up in these ways and to discern what needs to happen. Like for myself, I have multiple different practices that I like to use. And yesterday it was my yoga practice that really wanted to happen in the morning, and that set the tone for my day. And today it was a need to come into nature and hike and just like walk and be in silence and beauty. And so we start to listen to that and follow accordingly. And also with food, we might eat something and it's like, oh, that didn't make me feel good. And pretty soon the body will get rid of any like addictions. Like if we have a sugar thing, the body will think it wants more sugar, but as soon as we finally clear it of that addiction, it'll start to speak more clearly about what is actually needing. It might need more protein actually, or something like this. And so as we purify, we become more clear about the needs of the body and of the energy. And from there, it's very easy to have more and more experiences of resting in the bliss body, the subtle body, the spirit. And we know we're connected with that when we have a sense of peace and contentment, where we're not kind of in this frenetic field or looking out here for this or that fulfillment, but there's just a really genuine contentment with the self, with life, within the relationships. And this comes from this tending. This is why we practice. This is why we want to develop exquisite self-care. And, I've really found in the tantric systems, Ayurvedic systems, yogic systems, that there's a whole map, a whole system that is just so profound for self-care. Like for instance, in the Ayurvedic tradition, or kind of I'll speak a little bit about the practices I'm involved in right now that are kind of my pillar practices at the moment. And so that's my Hatha Yoga practice. Hatha Yoga, Hatha meaning sun and moon, so helping to balance the lunar and solar aspects of our being, and the doer and the being. And so that really grounds in my physical body and anchors my energetic body. And then I always have pranayama incorporated with that practice as well, and always ending with a shavasana to let the whole system integrate and to rest. Another practice that I've been doing is a lot of work with mantra, and mantra really helps to purify the mind and the emotions. So working with that to tend to that level. And then also for the physical body, we do companion practices where we'll do oil massage over the whole body. It's called abhyanga. And it's like really it's not just smearing oil all over. It's like you're really tending to the body. You're rubbing it into the joints. You're rubbing it in between every single fingertip. We even rub it into the scalp and the hair and the face and everywhere. Basically oil everywhere, lots of it. And this really helps to ground in the body. And also if we're doing these other practices, it helps to integrate the practices into the body. So even if it's more of an energetic, mental, emotional, spiritual practice. So all of this helps to nourish all the way up those 5 bodies to the physical to the spiritual. And the 5 elements are very much involved in the whole process, along with the senses. And essentially, what we want to do with the senses for exquisite self-care is we let the senses guide us inward, in towards the self. So we want to have this idea in exquisite self-care that everything is centrifugal. All of our energy, our thoughts, our emotions, like everything's just being brought into the self again and again and again to nourish the self. So the sound of the birds, the feel of the air, the smell of the earth, the sight of the trees, the taste in the mouth, maybe taking a sip of water or something like this. So we let all of that just draw us further and further inward and really allow the senses to nourish our being on a deep level. So creating more beauty within first and foremost, and then that begins to radiate out, letting ourselves be immersed in beauty. Beauty really is one of the most healing balms that there is. So this is what I felt inspired to talk on today, exquisite self-care. So get out into nature, do your yoga, find that muscle of discipline, and give yourself an oil massage. Take a hot bath with rose petals, drink a hot cup of herbal tea, make yourself a nourishing meal, and tend to the self. Take some time for just silence and quiet and relaxation. And particularly, for men and women alike, I think it's really important that we nourish our yin right now, because there's a lot of activity happening in life already. There's a lot of busyness, there's a lot of complexity, and the more we can just come and allow ourselves the gift of simplicity and rest, the better off we will be. So thank you all for hearing me. And oh yeah, I said I'd show you. I'm going to show you around a little bit where I'm sitting because it's so pretty. So some things that I'm really loving. First of all, there's this beautiful pond. There's the beaver dam, and I don't know if you can see the mushrooms on that log. And then there's some more mushrooms over there that I think I'm going to have to go check out. And then there's the golden sunlight in the trees. It's so beautiful. And the little birds. And then I love also the ferns, and you see that. I think that's even a wild rose maybe that's growing out of that stump, and the moss. And I love these little stones that are caught in this root here. It's so pretty. So anyway, Jema, take care of yourself. You're worth it.